Well, hello, and thanks for watching another episode of ARFCOM News, your twice-weekly reminder that Silicon Valley thinks your rights are dangerous, your hobbies are scary, and your memes are misinformation. I hate to kick off episodes with bad news, but F in the chat for CtrlPew, who just got yeeted from the tube of views for thought crimes without so much as a warning or even a community strike.
Sentence, death.
So apparently, if you so much as talk about the homebrew movement, even without showing how to do it, it is off to the virtual gulag with you. Now, I know my days are numbered here as well, so you can catch our show on Rumble instead if you prefer, and you can catch CtrlPew there as well. But all of you are right here, not over there.
Which is why we are here.
Regardless, I urge you to support CtrlPew in any way you can. He was instrumental in bringing the homebrew movement to the point where it is today. I reached out to CtrlPew to ask if there was anything he wanted me to pass on, and here's what he said. They have struck me down for the 11th time, but I shall return more powerful than they can possibly imagine under a new email address and a slightly modified username. In the meantime, please visit CtrlPew.com for shenanigans and print more guns. So yeah, check him out when he comes back. But let's not kid ourselves. This is not about policy enforcement. This is ideological warfare. CtrlPew didn't violate YouTube's rules, he violated their worldview. Because if you want to advertise literal pornography and illegal drugs on their platform, they'll happily take your money. If you want to target children with skibbity slop intended to melt their minds and destroy civilization as we know it, you're good to go. And naturally, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics, and all the other parasites are allowed to shield their weapons without any sort of limitations whatsoever. Promoting the sale of arms is allegedly a violation of YouTube terms of service, but only an absolute imbecile would expect them to enforce their rules equally.
We have sentenced you to death.
No, CtrlPew was banned because he believes the Second Amendment is not a privilege, it's a birthright. He thinks you should not need a permission slip to protect yourself. He believes, and brace yourself for this one, the government shouldn't control your access to ideas, not even through their Silicon Valley lapdogs. So what now? Well, same as always. Archive everything, spread the word, mirror the videos, support CtrlPew on Library, Odyssey, Rumble, and whatever other platform hasn't been neutered by Silicon Valley's panic attack over ghost guns and home squirters. But CtrlPew isn't gone, he's just gone underground, and like any good print, he can be remixed, distributed, and shared endlessly because you can ban a channel, but you can't stop the signal.
I am to misbehave.
But hey, it would be impossible for us to produce quality two-way propaganda without sponsors. So let's pay some bills. Today's video is sponsored by Vortex. The Vortex Defender line features a constant on emitter with no flicker and shake awake, so it's always ready. The Defender CCW is impressively compact for daily carry, the ST is a bit larger, and the XL is an absolute beast with one of the largest windows available on a micro dot. And now, all three are available with a green reticle. And by Springfield Armory. Imagine a 9mm carbine with roller delay action just like Kraut Space Magic. Now imagine it didn't have garbage ergonomics. The revolutionary new Kuna from Springfield Armory lets you have that roller delayed smooth recoil you're looking for, but it also gives you a reversible, non-reciprocating charging handle and absolutely everything. This gentleman with a rather intense stare is Bill King, professor of mechanical science and engineering at the University of Illinois. Not some unhinged psychopath with a penchant for booger sugar who makes you instinctually create distance and somehow reminds me of Judge Doom.
Eye contact, man.
Nope, he is a credible scientist who claims he has trained AI to identify which printer made a part. Naturally, this has some people worried this means they'll track our ghost guns, but it doesn't appear to work that way.
That's not how it works.
This process was intended to help companies identify counterfeits or determine if a manufacturer is complying with their contract and using the machines they promised to use. It would be useless for tracking spooky boys. The team used thousands of parts to train the model, and while the professor is confident they can get that number down to something manageable for industrial purposes, they will always need parts from the target machine to match against. Because the analysis relies on comparison of microscopic differences in texture. So sure, if you go out and smoke somebody and leave your printed heater at the scene, yeah, the cops could absolutely match it with your printer, probably. If you were a suspect and they had your printer. That is, they could match a gun you made to your printer if they had both, but I think most of us already assumed they could do that, right? Besides, I'm no mechanical science professor, but I'd be willing to bet a six-pack that changing out the extruder nozzle and some of the belts would drastically alter the fingerprint. And for that matter, they can already track you through printer software or your purchase history. We've seen plenty of cases where someone was prosecuted because the Department of Homeland Security was spying on their purchase history, and when they saw gun parts purchased, they referred them to local cops in states with unconstitutional infringements on homemade guns. Bottom line, be careful out there, brothers and sisters.
It's a special for the Warriors. That's that real live bunch from Coney.
The Texas House just passed SB 1596, which kinda sorta legalizes short barrel rifles and shotguns, and I'll get to that part in a sec. But first, I got distracted by this part referencing a short barrel tire deflation device. And now I have questions. In all seriousness, this law is kind of interesting in that it legalizes short barrel rifles and shotguns in Texas. But Andrew, you say, aren't they still restricted at the federal level? And you are absolutely right. So what's the point of legalizing them at the state level? Well, as it stands right now, if you got caught with an unregistered short barrel rifle in Texas, the local police officer or sheriff could charge you under Texas Penal Code. If this bill passes into law, they won't be able to do that.
That sounds nice.
It would still violate federal law for you to have a gun with a stock and a barrel shorter than 16 inches, but the feds don't have the manpower to enforce that law. They rely on local cops to enforce their unconstitutional laws. It's not a huge change, but it's a good change. President Trump just appointed a new pardon attorney, Ed Martin. You may recall the old pardon attorney was fired because she refused to recommend Mel Gibson to have his gun rights restored. I said at the time, and I stand by it, that Mel Gibson's gun rights never should have been violated in the first place, but it is also wrong for him to get special treatment.
That's a separate issue.
No. I consider them linked.
Well, old Ed Martin is kicking off his tenure by doubling down on this theme of special treatment. His first recommendation, which was approved by Trump, was to pardon Scott Jenkins, a former Virginia sheriff who was loyal to Trump and who was convicted for corruption when he accepted 75 grand in bribes to hook up wealthy good old boys with badges as auxiliary sheriff deputies so they could disregard carry laws in other states. This sort of scam is not altogether uncommon, as other sheriffs have been caught for the same thing. And it leaves me feeling conflicted because, yeah, all gun laws are infringements, but it's also wrong for some people to get special treatment. Hell, that's why permits are so fundamentally unjust in the first place. If you can buy a permit for something, that means it's really only illegal for poor people. Now that's one thing if the permit is for a finite resource like fishing or a segment of the electromagnetic spectrum. But when you start saying that fundamental rights are not for everyone, you lost me. And now for your moment of Zen. Hello, friend. Do you like pews and pew-related things? Would you like to help us keep delivering you pure American pew propaganda at the low price of free? We literally couldn't pay the bills without our sponsors, so do us a solid and get yourself something nice from them. You deserve it. I love you.